In today's episode, we had the honor of chatting with Bethany McCamish. She's a former teacher and TEDx speaker turned founder of Bethany Works, a multi-six-figure design studio.
We talk all things branding and the power of your personal brand and business, from navigating her own pivots to sharing the 3 Ps for your brand. We dive into it all. So if you're a business owner who's always had questions about your brand, what it really is, what the best ways are to grow it online, then stick around. This one's for you. Welcome to Find Your Themes, the podcast and community for women who know they're meant for more.
We're your hosts, Brooke and Kelly, 2 founders, 2 entrepreneurs, and 2 best friends who are figuring it out just like you. Because if you have found that success is anything but a straight line, then you're in the right place.
Join us each week as we go through all things business and all things real life.
We're going to bring you along for the highs, the lows, and everything in between.
Grab your drink, get comfy, and get ready for a chat with your new best friends.
Let's like this shit.
Welcome back to a new episode of the Find Your Fuse podcast. We are so excited because we have an incredible guest here and one that's actually in the same industry as us. So I think this is going to be a really fun conversation because we're all obsessed with this work. So welcome, Bethany. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat about all things branding.
I was going to say, literally, it's just like the branding badass episode, which we love.
Yeah.
It's literally, we were talking to someone about it yesterday because we had done her brand for her and she was talking about like the difference that it made as she shows up in her business. And I'm like, truly, like branding, it's so much fun because it's so fun and creative, but there is such like an emotional pull and like confidence piece that can go with it. And it's incredible. Do you want to tell everyone who you are, what you do, everything about you to intro yourself? And then we can
We'll gush on you from there.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So, my name is Bethany McCamish. I am the founder and creative director of Bethany Works, which is a strategic brand and web design studio. And then I also am the host of my own podcast called Unbreakable Brands, which you two will be on shortly. And that's what I do day in and day out. And then on top of that, as a little side bit, I'm also building a personal brand of my own. I've written and co-authored a chapter in a book recently, which we'll chat a little bit about. And then I'm working on my next book right now. So that's me in a tiny little nutshell.
Amazing.
And you're a TEDx speaker.
Yes. And former teacher, TEDx speaker. Yes.
Incredible. So we're really excited to dive in. For anyone listening, the topics we're going to cover today really are super brand heavy and talking about showing up in a personal brand, building a brand and not just a business and all the things that are around that. But as anyone who listens to this podcast knows, we always start with duality because social media is a highlight reel and that's bullshit. So we want to bring light and awareness to the highs and lows that can happen at the same time in business and life and everything in between. So for the high duality, what's a moment you felt confident and powerful, even if no one else could see it?
Yeah, I loved seeing this question. Because I had to think like long and hard about it because a lot of times I will tie like when I feel most confident and powerful when it is maybe recognized, like I'm on stage or something like that. So I liked the positioning of like when no one hears about it. And I will say for me, it's when I see my client's success because I know I built that backbone and that brand foundation. And then I love seeing that create more wealth for more women. And like the ripple effect of that is super incredible. And that just gives me more confidence and power, like moving forward. So I think seeing the ripple is huge for me and also reminding me of the why I'm doing all these things anyways.
Yeah. And I can even speak to also as a brand designer, there's nothing cooler than seeing your work in the wild.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because like, of course you make it and you're like, well, yeah, that's pretty. I'm like, I'm obsessed with it. Duh. But like seeing someone else execute it and put it on their things and like show up on their stages with it. Like there's a moment of like, I was a part of their story.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, Brooke and I talk about this all the time. Even yesterday, we were on site with a client and she credits so much of like her confidence alone and just her branding. And I'm sure you get that all the time. And so for us, she was like, but look, I have a pad of paper with my logo. And look, I have a pen. And like all day, she just like carried it around and was just so happy about that. And so to see that joy, to see that confidence in other people because of the work that you do, literally such a blessing.
Oh, no.
And it's so freaking fun. So on the duality piece, Um, what is a time you questioned yourself, but you came out stronger?
Yeah. Uh, Literally all the time.
You're
I
like
like
every dang day.
all the time. I I feel like every time there's like a change, a pivot, an uncomfortable combo, so things like raising my prices every time I do that, standing firm in boundaries. Like if I have a rude client, an unkind client, a client who's not like, you know, following processes, and hiring a team, getting
Mhm.
on stage, like
Mhm.
any of those things, um, like can be really hard, can have me questioning myself. And then I will also add to that, like being honest and saying, I don't know the answer to that is another thing
Mm.
that like I've gotten more comfortable with over time. But initially, I think that's something that I was always like, oh, should I like say that? Or what does that do to my authority? But that's actually helped me be stronger and better every time. So I think that's just a part of being in an entrepreneurial space too, is just you have to be resilient, open to change, and constantly self evaluating when these things happen because they're going to happen all the time, like at a much faster rate than if you were climbing the ladder in corporate or in a different position entirely.
Is there a time in mind for you where you had this moment of like, I have to say I don't know, and this is really scary because I like, does something pop in your head for that? Because when you said that, I had like a very fierce moment in my head of like, oh, I know that feeling.
Oh, I mean, no, I don't have like a specific story necessarily that's popping in my head. I had to get more comfortable with, you know what? Yeah, I guess like the first time I was doing a major integration for a booking platform, like there were a couple moments where I had to be like, I really don't know the answer to that, but I'll figure it out.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, it's just like swallow your pride, swallow your ego, and admit that you don't know the thing, and it's okay.
Yep.
And you're not gonna like leave anyone hanging or drop the ball. You're gonna figure it out. That's literally what entrepreneurs do. But I think there's this expectation, especially in our industry and space, that you're gonna know like every line of code imaginable to
Uh-huh.
make something. You
Yes,
know what I mean? Like,
especially in tech. Yeah.
yeah, that you just have it in your library and I think it's just okay to be like, let me just see what I can figure out on that end because that's unexpected.
Yeah.
Um, Rather than being like, yeah, I have it perfectly together.
And I got this. And
Mhm.
the amount of things, especially in this industry, like you said, especially with web, like
Yeah.
web is what comes to mind for me
Yeah.
every time. It's this moment of like, people don't know what they don't know. And they don't
Yeah.
realize that certain things are actually not a web designer's job. Like, no, that's actually related, but there's typically a whole department for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we often end up being all the departments for
Hmm.
ourselves, for our clients. That was like a fun combo I had with someone recently. They had moved away from entrepreneurship and into W2 and they were like the best thing that ever happened was that there's a tech and IT department and like something went wrong and I spent 4 hours trying to fix it and then someone was like just email IT like what are you doing?
Yeah. It's
And
literally their
so
job.
yeah, literally, yeah. So it's like just a nice perspective shift too to be like, "Oh, yeah, like, normally there's a million departments for that, and it's okay that I don't have a specific answer at this moment," you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
To be fair, Brooke is my IT department.
Yeah,
Um,
I love it.
I am like the oldest millennial when it comes to some things. I'm literally
Okay.
like, I don't know. It's not working. And I took 5 minutes and that is way too long. It was like my computer might combust if I try. And she's like, have you breathed recently?
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Okay. She was like, it's literally
Fix that.
one button. And I was
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
oh, that would have took me 3 hours to figure out.
They hit new walls too of like turning it off and turning it back on didn't work. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we're gonna try it, okay? Like, did you refresh the page? Have you cleared your cache? Like, these
Once I run through those three, I'm like, "Ooh, okay."
yeah, after that, then we can, like, dive further.
Ugh. And I'm a little scared. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. Okay, so outside of entrepreneurship, can you just give us a little bit, like what makes you tick? What makes you who you are today? How'd you get here?
Yeah, yeah, I can give my little entrepreneurial journey in, like, a tiny nutshell. So I went to I'll start at community college. I went to community college at 15, which is a big deal. That was a pivotal moment in my life because prior to that point, I had only been homeschooled. I was raised super religious. I call it a cult. I'm very open talking about my cult story on TikTok. So that was like a transitional period that was super important to me. I got into community college through an early entrance exam. Definitely like guessed on grade and everything because I hadn't been to a real school. And I took a women's studies class, tons of art classes, and it was just like my world was pretty cracked open. And then that was like the start of me eventually being here through many other trails. I had multiple jobs in college. I worked in industry during college. I went on to get my BFA degree, which was so much fun. And then from BFA, I went into grad school, became a teacher, teaching graphic design, what they called web communications, which is pretty much web design, and photography and film studies. And then I did that for 5 years, started burning out. But my entry into entrepreneur life was through a blog. I had a personal finance blog, and it was to document me paying off my student loans. Because as you can imagine, after grad school, there were a lot, and I was fully on my own for that. And it was documenting debt payoff with my partner. And I got into this personal finance space, and it's a very friendly, welcoming space.
Oh,
We went to like FinCon and all these conferences,
I love that.
and yeah, it was really fun. And our blog did really well, like for being, super new. And then we had a little podcast, and people started seeing my work like, "Oh, we love how you designed your site. We like your logo, and will you design a logo for us?" And so I just was like I just started saying yes to literally everything, as most people do. And that was like my epiphany moment of like, "Oh my god, I can like make money online." Like,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh wait,
Nice.
like I don't my only other model was like an agency model, like brick and mortar style. So I didn't have like it in my head that this could be a thing." And so that was my like turning point inside
Yeah.
of that space. And I decided to take it super seriously in 2018. And I was like, I want to replace my teacher paycheck. Like, that's my goal.
Yeah.
And I did between 2018 and 2019, replace my teacher paycheck. It was like perfect timing because my husband got a job offer in a different state at the same time. So I quit teaching. We moved states. I like,
It was going.
took it full time.
So aligned.
Yeah.
Transition.
Yeah. And it also was like I will say it was a good excuse when I left teaching because I was like, oh, well, we're moving states,
Whoops.
It made it easy for you to be like, "Well,
um,
I don't have to like quit my job to like still see people at the Starbucks in town. Thank you."
yeah, yeah, totally. So it worked out great. And then, yeah. And then I haven't looked back since. I've just grown it since then. So that was my path into where I am now. And then my focus is really on women-led businesses. I think that they're like my past being an invisible woman and knowing what that feels like to be too much and not enough
Yeah.
directly speaks to my clientele and what they're doing now. I mean, they have not all been raised in a cult. I don't want to like make it sound like that, but like I think that too much not enough is a
Yeah.
conversation that a lot of women experience, especially women in business.
Yep.
So me being able to be in a position where I build a visibility platform for them is my why. Like that's why I'm always so excited about the work that I do and who I work with.
I adore this. Is there, speaking to that moment of feeling too much and not enough, and I can personally attest to the self-doubt that can creep into your mind because of that, the imposter syndrome, the who am I to do blank. Was there a moment for you? What was the time frame between finding out that you're like, I can do this for a living and make money online, and I'm going to do this if I replace my salary in the next like X, if once I replace my salary, I'm quitting. Was there a moment that, or not a moment? What was the time frame between those? Because I asked this because I can remember for myself having this moment of, oh my God, I can make money online, and actual years passed for me where I was
Mm.
not ready to make the jump because I was like, how, what, who am I? The whole thing. So what was that for you?
Yeah, no, it was years. Like
Mhm.
I started making money online in 2017. Like 2016, 2017, when I had my blog and that sort of thing. I would say the blog was like such a good entry point because it was like my avenue to finding clients, but not necessarily like it generated some revenue, but not in a huge way. So it was like this good thing to play with, like a hobby.
Yeah.
And then in the personal finance space, meeting all these people also doing it was huge for me because I'd be like, oh, you're like selling templates online and you're
Mhm,
making millions of dollars.
mhm.
Like, wait a minute. But it was years. Yeah. So 2017 to 2018 is when I grew some type of client base, again, saying yes to everything.
Mhm.
And then 2018 to 2019, a full year, is when I decided to ramp it up and do it alongside my full-time job.
Okay.
And even when I quit, it's not like I automatically was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm this incredible CEO, creative director, ready to roll. I mean, there was a lot of doubt that came with that. And something that I often share is that I had every time I changed my title in what I called myself, even if I wasn't putting it out there, is when I could meet a new revenue goal or feel and step into new shoes inside of my business. So like I started as a freelancer, then I became a small business owner, then I became a business owner, then I became a CEO. And like my that first year out, I would have never called myself a creative director. Or put myself out there to brands in that way. And so that was a huge shift, and just even changing my title changed how I showed up.
Yeah. It's so funny how languaging can change so many things. Kelly and I talk about it all the time. We made
For
the
sure.
shift from small business to company, which
Mhm.
to most people listening, they're like, it's a word, but like
Yeah,
there's an
they're like, "Okay."
energetic that's behind it
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to call myself a small business. So there's nothing wrong with it. We love small businesses. We're building a company. We're building something bigger. We don't want something small. We want something big. And the
Mhm.
shift of releasing small business owner to we're building a company was actually insane.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's literally a word, right? But I will never forget that moment that Brooke and I both went, "Oh my God.
Mhm,
Oh my God.
mhm.
You're right." And from that moment forward, we've just been showing up differently. And I think it's just so dang powerful. And even just the word small, we were getting annoyed with just the word small, and there's really nothing wrong with it. But I
Yeah.
do think it is, now that you're talking about like the not enough part,
Mhm.
like my like woman fire, like literally like fires up. And I was like, oh no, we are a company.
Yeah.
No. But again, obviously there's nothing wrong with that at all. But we
And
needed that shift for us to show up differently.
yeah, and you
Mhm,
rise to it, right?
mhm.
Like you'll rise to what you put in front of yourself. And so if there's nothing to rise to, then where are you really going and taking it? And there's no fucking rules. Like you don't have to call yourself, you know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
think there's no rules. Like there's plenty of men out there calling themselves all kinds of things. Like I think we're fine to say that we're doing these things.
Dead.
I always tell myself, I'm like, we are literally on a floating rock flying through
Yeah.
space. Like it's fine. This is
Yeah.
all Monopoly and made up.
And I tell my clients that too, and I'm sure you tell yours too, like, embodying it, like, also goes with what you're telling yourself and how you're presenting yourself.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
100%. Your words matter. Power of the
Mhm,
tongue.
mhm.
Speaking of your words matter, I want to hear all about the book. Like, I want to hear about your chapter. I want to hear all about that. So, can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about that? And I know you had mentioned to us the three P's,
Yes.
and
Yes,
I
the
want
3
to hear
Ps.
all about it.
Yes, okay, I have my book here.
Oh my gosh, cute. Okay.
Yes. 'Kay.
Oh, yay.
Here's, let me go to my little chapter, hold on, so you can screenshot it for your this is my chapter.
Yes. Wait, send us an actual
Uh,
photo too, because I would love to use
Yes.
that. Like,
yeah, okay,
boom, boom.
perfect.
We'll link
Um
everything.
Yeah, so it's called Rise and Find, An Ambitious Woman's Guide to Building Her Dream Life. I'm a co-author. I'm chapter 12 in the book. It's an anthology, so there's a lot of women who contributed to the book.
Mhm.
So I'm not the main author, but it is an Amazon bestseller, which is pretty exciting. And it was
Amazing.
published last year in 2024. And then my chapter specifically is about the 3 Ps, which are promise, position, and presence. And those to me are the 3 things that need to be in place when you're building a really strong brand foundation. And at the start of the chapter, I won't give too much away, but I talk about this like hot tub scenario that like led to me, mapping out the 3 Ps essentially. So I won't drop that here because you have to read it. It's like a good intro into it, but like talking about the 3 Ps. you start always with your promise, and that's what you're delivering again and again on repeat. And by delivering, I don't mean like the actual deliverable, which I think is where a lot of people get stuck. Like, oh, I'm a copywriter. Like I
Right.
deliver words.
Mhm.
Like I deliver
Mhm.
the thing. We could say like, oh, we deliver websites, but it's like, what's the promise that you deliver on again and again, that it doesn't matter what the product is as much or the service, but you're doing that for people again and again. So mine is visibility. Like that's my promise to my people that I work to deliver on again and again. And the way that I deliver that can change. And then in the chapter, I use Netflix as a super good example because I think it's an incredible brand that has built something huge. And the founder has this whole Twitter like series talking about the start of
Mhm.
Netflix, and it's so impactful. I also have that in there with screenshots, but his whole thing was like, we one wanted to just sell something on the internet, which I think a lot of people can relate to as brands in general, like
Correct.
and then two, like our thing was there had to be a better way to rent movies. Like that was it, a better way to
Mhm.
rent movies, to like watch film, access film. And then they deliver on that again and again. Like that's their promise. Like they went from DVDs being mailed, like their site was
Mhm.
literally crashed because there were so many signups when they
Yep.
launched,
Yep.
to like now a full-on
Mhm.
streaming production company. Like production company wasn't necessarily even in the sites initially, but it was like a better way to access film and tell stories, is their promise they're delivering on.
Yeah.
And I think if we can all put our brands in that space, it allows the next step of positioning to be so much easier. Um, so positioning is the second P, and that's where you are in the market. And I think that's a little bit more maybe commonly understood, but I think it's framed so often in like where you are in the market with your competitors. And there's still some really outdated thinking in terms of positioning of like, if I'm cheaper or quicker,
Mhm.
then that's how I position myself. And like in some cases that might work, like Amazon. But,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
But like we can't all be Amazon, and that's okay.
And also,
Um
Amazon wasn't always Amazon. Like, it
yeah,
had to get to that. It was built in a
exactly.
garage, right? A basement,
Mhm,
something
mhm.
not glamorous.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't cute.
Yeah.
And it was like books initially.
Correct.
It wasn't like anything like it is today.
Mhm.
Um, so I think starting with convenience as a new brand or like being cheaper is can be really it's a big uphill battle. Not to say that it doesn't work. I don't want to throw out there like some sort of end thing, but where you are in the market matters with your competitors, but it also matters in how you're innovating within your space. And so I think people might hear these names like Netflix or you know Amazon, or that like they're like, oh, I have to be the next iPhone, but I
Yeah.
don't think
Mhm.
that's true. So my examples in the book, I have Skims as an example, but I also have another one recently from a podcast interview I did. But so I'll just paint both of those, and then you can see how innovation can like take root without it being like making the wheel for the first time. So
Mhm.
I think Skims is a great example. Granted, they have a celebrity platform, so like I can't, like we're not all walking out with that. But what they did is they took shapewear, which has been
Mhm.
around for forever, and they found a way to innovate it and found everything that they thought was wrong with shapewear, non-inclusive sizing, not enough shades for multiple skin tones. Like there's a list of things, and then and also like not sexy. Let's be real.
Yeah. It's correct.
Mhm.
Correct.
It's not
Like,
really
it's one of those
sexy.
things, like, you take it off and you're like, "I am gonna hide while I undress real quick."
Yeah, like hopefully nobody sees this. Yeah. And they took all those things and then decided to change that with Skims, and then, obviously use celebrities to push it and make it, accessible. So I think that's a really cool way of innovating something that has existed forever. And then my other example is Juliette Wine. Allison, the co-founder, was just on my podcast, and they've completely reimagined boxed wine. It's not even in a box anymore. It's like this beautiful cylindrical container. And they did this because it's so much more sustainable, which is a huge, important part of like their business, but also that it's accessible to women in a different way. And box wine has always been this kind of like, it's a joke. It's a butt of
Yeah.
jokes, if you
Slap
know.
the bag.
Mhm.
Yes,
That's literally what you think
exactly.
of.
Literally.
Yeah. And so
Mhm.
they were like, we want it to be a luxury and indulgence that we can reimagine in a way that also doesn't harm our planet and then connects with women. And it's just a beautiful way to approach something. So they've really considered their position in the market and found a way to innovate something that already exists. So that is what I think positioning is in a modern lens, more so than like you compared to your three competitors, if
Yep.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. I love
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. Obsessed with this conversation. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it is a beautiful way that people don't talk about it. And you're absolutely right. It is there's, 2 lawnmower companies in my town. I'm going to be the one with $5 less. And you're
Mhm.
like, that's amazing. And sure, that might work for you. But in especially the online space, in the digital learning space, in just a lot of big brands that want to be companies, it's a different kind of thing. So how are you positioning yourself as that I guess more aligned company for who you're trying to serve? It's not about pricing. And that's kind of funny, right? Because in school, you learn about like the 5 Ps, right? And positioning is one of them, where it's like, cool, where are you in the market? Dope. You know that. You know where your competitors are. You know where your people are. That's your position. But I love that you're like, no, it's bigger than that. It's more
Mhm.
important than that. And it's not simple. And I
Yeah.
think that's beautiful because it's really, that goes back to branding in general of like, how are you taking your business and what you have to offer the world and positioning that so dang well without even telling people, I'm running a sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, and like to your point, I think the lowering your price as your position marker 90% of the time is just the easy way out because
Mhm.
lowering your price is not speaking to your people. And if you don't have, that clarity and like, how am I innovating for my people to deliver on the promise that I said I was going to deliver to make sure I'm in that position to deliver that promise, then
Mhm.
I haven't spent enough time thinking about it to build my brand in a way that's
Mhm.
going to make an impact.
Yep.
And sustainability. Like you can't have a sale forever unless you're Bath and Body Works, right? Like
Yeah,
And
literally.
I would
Also, a lot of those are going out of business.
right, and I won't
totally.
buy from those companies unless they're on sale. You, like, lock yourself into that
Y
moment of, like,
Mhm,
"Yeah,
You
you're
do.
gonna be on sale next week. Why would I ever pay full price?"
Mhm,
mhm,
mhm. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, it puts you in a cycle
Mhm.
for sure.
I also think the other thing I wanna point out here to, like, what you said is just today, like, it is such a different digital landscape than what
Yes.
the original definition of positioning was
Mhm.
created in because in this internet age, you have more competition than ever. And I don't say
Mhm.
that to scare you. I actually say it in a really empowering way because it's this fun puzzle and challenge of how can I make myself stand out differently than everyone else around me? Because it has to be
Yep.
so much more than just the dollar amount, especially today with
Mhm.
how people care much more and are voting with their money more. And so how can you make sure you're showing up and positioning yourself in a way that is aligning your dream customer because there's 600 others of you for them to pick
Yeah.
that people
Mhm.
can
Yeah.
find super easily on social media.
Yeah, exactly. And like there are new types of businesses that did not exist
Mhm.
2 years ago, 10
Yep.
years ago. And so I think there's so much hybridizing. I don't think that's a word, but like
Well, they do.
hybrid business. We're going to
Mhm.
say it is.
Yep.
Um businesses coming out of, like content creators, lifestyle brands, the creator economy is an entirely new market, essentially, that can't be grounded in the same way that the market has been grounded previously. And so I think that that's an important conversation. And I think content creators are on the forefront of that. And then as brand strategists, we're also thinking about it all the time.
You have to.
All the
Yeah.
time. All
Yeah.
the time, which is also just kind of like a fun thing. I think, as clients of all of ours, knowing that they can come to us and be like, how is the market changing
Hmm.
and where are we and how can we shine with our brand? Bed all day. Like
Yeah.
like I have tingles all over the place because
Yeah.
that makes me so excited to be like, let me tell you, hold please.
Let me tell you what we can do.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, there's like we could even talk about, brands like Starbucks, okay? I'm obviously using a huge Starbucks cup that's orange, and it's my love. However, um, every town in the US is slowly but surely getting a Starbucks, right? But it doesn't mean that the other small cafes are going away. but like, where is their position in that small market compared
Mhm.
to a Starbucks that's a billion-dollar brand?
Yeah.
Amazing. Starbucks has their own position in the market. They have their own pricing. They have their own everything.
Yeah.
And then what are the other coffee shops giving that's supporting the community in a different way? And maybe if you're out there and you're listening and you're like, I don't know where I am in the market, think of it as if you're against a Starbucks. How can you show up differently? Like if you decide to go to Kelly's coffee shop instead of Starbucks every day, why is that? And see if
Mhm.
you can build that for your own brand so you can shine separately from the big guys.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and how can you innovate differently
Hmm.
from the big guys for sure.
Exactly.
That's very Seattle of you. I mean, it
Stop.
makes sense. Like anywhere else you might be made fun of for being
Not here.
Starbucks girl.
I appreciate that. And it is actually really funny because not to go off on a tangent, but to go off on a tangent, I've had a lot of dates here in Seattle as a single woman, and they're coffee dates at night. And I was like,
Mhm.
nowhere else in the world could ever.
Mhm.
Like,
Nowhere
this
else.
is a normal space.
The
So,
coffee shops are even
anyway,
open
just
past
funny
2
Seattle
PM. I
things.
get it. I mean, I'm in your sister city, so I get it. Okay, so that brings us to the last of the 3 Ps, your presence, which is the end delivery of all that your brand offers. And this is the part that I think most people actually just skip to. Um, because it's sexy and it's like the sexy visuals, the aesthetic, the mood, all the things we love. Um, but I think if people skip their promise and their position, which is like, a way to like combine all brand strategy and market research into 2 things, then the presence isn't going to hit the way they expect it to hit. So I think that most people come back to a rebrand or a refresh or looking at their brand after they've jumped into their presence, into the visuals without any substance, and then wondered why it's not working, start feeling stuck, don't have a path forward, don't know what their next campaign is going to be based off of. And so I think this is a very important step, but it's a step that needs to have the work put in first. And then my example in the book is like water, bottled water, because I think it's such a good example of brand presence. Because literally they're all selling the same thing. You know what I mean? I mean, some
Mhm.
has like a little more minerals and the pH and whatever. I know there's people who like sample water for a living. But like it's the same thing. And then I like to say, if you have a preference on water, you understand presence. Like if you care about which one you're going to get, you like understand why brand presence is so important. And so of course I contrast, Evian, Liquid Death, like Life Water, all of these different water brands and how they've carved their niche in an area where they're all selling the same thing. So that's the last and final P, a very important one, but one that will not make any difference or impact if it's not preceded by the others.
Also very freaking important, though.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned, like, people like to skip that because it's
Yeah.
sexy and, like, that's the action steps, right? And so for me, I'm like, "Yes, preach to the choir," because you have to start at the first P and move like, it's built that way on purpose, and I purpose should be the 4th one. Anyway, it's built that way on purpose, and I think it's amazing.
Yes, yeah, it really is. Like it's so important. And I've had clients tell me like that I'm like their business therapist because I ask them why and I like want to know who their people are. And I mean that's the number one piece of feedback I get is like, "Oh, well, I never thought about any of those things, but now that I know those things, I can take aligned action rather than just do the next thing on my checklist and run on a hamster wheel."
100%. And I actually really love your example of if you have a preference in water, you understand presence because it really does put it in such a tangible way
Yeah.
for people to understand of like, oh, because so many people think one, branding is just your logo, so the visual, and two, that it's complicated, it's hard, I don't quite understand it. And I think that puts it in a really digestible way of like, no, you do actually understand it. You just don't realize why you do.
Uh-huh.
And here's why, here's the education on that. So I might steal that explaining things to clients sometimes because that's lovely.
Yeah, feel free. I mean, any way we can make it clearer what we do,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Truly. So you kind of just mentioned it even with this final P of branding mistakes you see a lot, but also as a branding professional in the industry, what to share with anyone listening, what is one branding mistake that you see entrepreneurs make most early on, um, outside of presence? Because I know there's a couple that I can think of.
Yeah, there's honestly a lot I can think of, but for this one, I'm gonna jump into, like, a recent conversation, something that a lot of people are talking about, and I think that's, trying to hide behind the work or the product, and not seeing your role as the face of your brand. And I am putting this in the forefront because this was absolutely me as well. Like for a long time, I hid behind the work that I did for clients, highlighting my portfolio, highlighting their successes, and not necessarily building thought leadership or authority as an individual and a founder. And where did I hear this on a podcast or a reel something the other day? But I think it's an important conversation to think about the face of your brand as a role. And a lot of times for a lot of companies, that means you as the founder are going to need to have some willingness to put yourself out there. And I know that's challenging, but that's why we do the work that we do to like help you with that. Or you're going to need to have budget to outsource that role to content creators, to large enough campaigns to paint an entire lifestyle. And so I think that's a huge mistake is that thinking, oh, I can launch this product and launch this service and never, you know, put myself out there and hide behind the work. And you can for a period of time, but it is not going to create the same type of connection. And I see faceless brands not working and the brands who hide behind their work not working even more so than before because of the like how many people are in this space and I think the rise of AI and the rise of all of these things that don't feel human make it even more of an essential role. So much so, I saw this the other day. PayPal is hiring for their CEO, um, like managing their content and their brand presence. And it's like a multi six figure role. I think it was like $256,000 a year.
Makes
And,
sense.
like, these are new positions that have, 1, never existed before, but 2, like, show the importance of having a face connected to a brand, and that is a role that didn't necessarily need so much funding and so much time and effort previously. So that I think this is a very fresh,
Yes.
new mistake that we're gonna see more and more.
I have two ways to go with this. One, I love this podcast and the conversation it allows us because it is just so funny the timeliness I find of conversations that come up with I that we've had with clients and even ourselves. I love that you mentioned you as a founder and a professional in this industry even have struggled with it yourself and you are having to
100%.
bring
Yeah.
yourself forward as the personal brand. Literally this morning, like this is what we were talking about, Kelly and I, before this call. Because when we merged, so we had our solo businesses separately, and then we merged to create Fuse the agency. Our original intention was to be a little bit more behind the brand because we know the future that we want for this company and how we do want it to be very team led in many ways. And this morning we finally had the conversation of like, you know what? I feel like we're gonna have to bring it back to bringing the personal brand a little bit more forward. Like, yes, we don't want to be the only piece of this brand in a way that maybe a solo in the way that our solopreneur roles had us, but like personal brand, like it really is the way to go because people want that human connection. And we are currently going through our own little internal rebrand, kind of redefining a lot of our own stuff. So for anyone listening, especially if you are not a branding professional, we struggle like it happens. We're all human. We struggle with it too. And when you're in your own business, you're so close to your own stuff that it's so hard to step back and really see. So having these conversations truly will help you find that presence for yourself and understand how to show up in it. And like Bethany said, we can help you with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say, like, I don't think that's to say that, like, every founder has to be the full face of their
Nope.
brand, but you have to be able to curate a lifestyle space or, a human connection
Mhm.
in some capacity. And usually it's through a lifestyle brand nowadays, or you have a face associated with your brand. And I have in the past been like, you don't actually have to be the face of your brand as a founder ever, but I'm definitely changing my mind on that as the landscape changes. And the reason I said that in the past is because, like, if you want to sell or exit, you don't want to be like Jenna Kutcher, Amy Porterfield level face of your brand. Like, how are you going to sell?
Correct.
So I get that, but I think there has to be a human connection. And if
Yeah.
you don't have the budget to outsource that,
It's you,
then you're
baby.
going to do it yourself.
It's you.
So,
Literally.
yeah.
And that was the purpose, like, our future vision for this, we were like, one day we may, there may be an exit to the brand. Who knows, what the
Yeah.
future holds. So we didn't want that tie. And literally everything you just said was the realization we've been having of like, we know the importance of personal brand. We need to swallow our own pill. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will say the second piece of what I wanted to add to it though, if anyone does want to see an example of a brand who has in the past done it well without putting like the founder's face, Duolingo. They did a
Mhm.
very good job of connecting a face to a brand that people could relate to and identify with, even though it was a freaking owl. It was a mascot. But when the social media director of Zora, I believe is her name. Apologies if I am remembering that incorrectly. It does start with a Z. I'll have to look it up. But she's the one that really introduced the giant mascot owl
Mhm.
of Duolingo and really it became this phenomenon on social media. And a lot of brands have these mascots. Like there was a
Yeah.
moment in time when Duo died and like all these other mascots came out, like Tarte had a Shape Tape one, like it was this whole thing. And yes, that's a mascot. Yes, that's not even a real person. I mean, there was obviously a person in the suit, but the reason it did so well is because of that personal human connection piece.
Mhm.
Had someone to look to and think to when thinking of Duolingo and like the silly owl who gets into shenanigans everywhere, not just, oh, this is another learn a new language app. It's no,
Yep.
that's there was a piece to it. So that
Yeah.
is a good example for anyone to look to
I
look.
love that example. I was gonna say like mascots, celebrities, or a content creator can easily be the face.
Uh-huh.
It just has to be done in a way. And I think Fora, actually they were at the event that we chatted at in person. They do a great job. They have someone on their team who creates all of their content and like a face of their brand essentially, and then they also partner with content creators, which I think is the fourth way to do it, and like they bring in people living that lifestyle and like promoting their travel. And so I think there's hybrid ways to do it, but it has to be a considered role now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's detrimental.
Which I love because even Brooke and I talk about selling and what that looks like and what those like years of formation would be. And then we're like, okay, what does that actually look like as a business? And like, we can't be just the face. And so
Mm.
I really love this conversation, especially with insert mascot, insert influencer, insert celebrity, because that means that you can still tie it to something that isn't you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, which I think is huge. And especially when you're in the space of we're building a business, it's building fast. And even like it's a good conversation to even have is like it is important to build a brand that has a face because people relate to people, right? Human buy
Mhm.
from people, humans love people. Um, but it doesn't have to be you. And I think that's an amazing, just kind of pinpoint discussion to have. So I love that we brought this up.
Is there in your own journey as you're coming to your own personal brand through all of this, is there a moment that has surprised you most in building your own personal brand as a creative director?
Yeah, I mean, it is, as I've said before, but like everything I think is gonna pop off doesn't, and it's everything I don't think.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
The 3
you know, I'm
Human
like
nature.
Yep.
I'm like, I kind of want you all to care about this stuff, and they don't.
Yeah.
So I think like that was just it's been interesting to also go through it myself in a way, feeling like I'm starting from scratch. Like I've built, a really successful agency and business. And then now there's this feeling of like, okay, I'm starting new to talking about my personal brand and building this next to what I've already built, like leveraging it in ways that I can.
Yeah.
Um, and that's like it's just been an interesting evolution also to do it around my story, which is what mine happens to be. Uh, it's just like you get a lot of vulnerability hangovers, like, and there's a lot of them,
Mhm.
and they don't necessarily
Okay.
get like better, which is okay.
100%. I think, oh, um, sharing can be really hard, and the vulnerability hangovers is something we were again, timeliness. We were talking about yesterday at lunch with a friend, and there is so much that can be so hard to share online, but can also become so freeing once you say it aloud.
Hmm.
But I will give the caveat of don't speak on something you haven't somewhat healed through yet because you
Oh,
don't
100%.
a detriment on your own healing. So gonna make that disclaimer, but it's the reason people connect because we are all on
Hmm.
this earth flailing and trying to figure it out and figuring out how to live and how to life and how to adult. And there is something so human about seeing someone else's journey, the highs, the lows, and everything in between that makes you fall in love with them more and makes you trust them more. And so when you do need that person's service or product or whatever it might be, like you are going to be more likely to go to them because that trust is there because you
Hmm.
see them as a human, not just like I'm going to be another invoice number and transaction in their database.
Yeah, exactly.
So on this topic a little bit because I find it fascinating and it is hard for anyone listening and you're like, "All right, okay, now I have to build a personal brand." How do you balance your agency's brand with your own voice and presence so that you're doing it in a way that not only puts you as that human, but also is still bringing in revenue? Because let's
Yeah.
be real, we live in a capitalist society and we need money.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think women should have more money and be making lots of money.
Yes.
Um, so I mean, like, this is so new to me. I don't feel like I can speak from an expert point of view like I have so far, but this is just my experience so far has been that I needed to have a deeper understanding of how the platforms functioned for my revenue before taking action. Um, in like, how are people connecting with the content? What content are they connecting with, and where does that belong? And how can I keep a small degree of separation between my agency and business and telling my story? Because not everyone is going to be interested in both. My personal brand vision is to grow a big community, serve that community in some way. I want to like build in public and see where that goes, and obviously have my book go to a community. So that's like my purpose behind that. And so all I can say for that is like TikTok has been my platform for like a little more unhinged content and my cult series and like talking about my background. Whereas Instagram, there's like maybe a 40% cross post ratio where I'm sharing tidbits, but I don't expect everyone on that platform to engage with that story in that way. And that platform also brings in leads for my business. So I don't necessarily want anyone to get confused. And
Mhm.
so as a brand strategist, that was important as well of like, I need a little bit of structure and organization here to make sure that nobody's like, okay, what is this girl really about kind of thing. um, so that's my experience so far, and we'll see how it builds from there.
Literally brilliant. Brooke and I have this conversation all the time of how do we balance that all? Like, how much do we give people? How much details should they know about behind the scenes? And where is that? And how does that live? And how often? And
Mhm.
all that jazz. And I appreciate your vulnerability and really being that person that's like, hey, I'm in it, and we're figuring it out as we go, and we're seeing what sticks with my audience and what they really care about. Because at the end of the day, we're building a community of people who care, and we want to really facilitate what they care about. Um, and so I think that's beautiful, and I appreciate your vulnerability to be like, "Hey, we're starting out. This is a new strategy for me, and we're figuring it out." Because we're in that same space, and it's just really refreshing to hear someone else in that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my bigger challenge more so than organizationally balancing the two in terms of content and like building communities, and email lists and all the things is like my structure in terms of my default, which I'm changing, but my default is always to prioritize clients and their work. And so that has been a much bigger struggle for me in terms of finding, enough hours in the day to also pursue this and keep my brand alive. I had like a keep my brand alive challenge going on for a little bit because it was something I saw my clients who are service providers also falling into.
Mhm.
Um, So I think that that's much more so of a rewrite that's happening right now over like structuring, where I'm putting things because I think I have a solid method for that now. I mean, it's going to change every 2 months when they change the algorithm, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at there.
Two things. One, I remember the series that you did on Instagram.
Oh, great.
And I loved it. I really genuinely do. Because I remember reading and going, yeah, okay, cool. I needed this reminder because it is true. And two, do we want to start like a weekly support group of like, remember to build your anyone who needs this because say literally the same. Like we always default to putting client work first. And it's not that I
Mhm.
necessarily want to change that because I want our clients to always feel so seen, loved, valued, held, supported, and know that they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get everything I need, and that really won't change. But there does need to be this balance and this time in your week set aside to also prioritize you. And I'm going to also throw in the caveat or your personal brand, and then also throw in the caveat of, and not forget you as a human as well, and ensure you're living life
True.
outside of all of this. And
Yeah.
can be so much to balance, but also they are all so important. They are all quite literally equally important. And it's one of those things where like the tough love is you got to figure it out.
Mhm. Yeah, it's true. There's no other answer to that other than you have to figure it out.
Mhm. Okay, so we know that being women led is a big passion of yours, obviously within your own business, but even with like founders that you work with. And what does women led visibility mean to you? I know a lot of it comes from the not enough and too much and all, but when it comes to women led visibility and how to get really visible as a women led brand, what does
Mm.
that
Yeah. I think like by human nature, we automatically think about visibility as press, media, views, um, all of those sort of external factors, which are 100% visibility. They're trackable, measurable items that are definitely visibility. But I think I see like that happening only after you are able to feel comfortable being seen. Like, if you're not comfortable being seen, either as an individual, as a solopreneur, as the founder, whatever it is that your role is within your company, brand, business, then visibility is going to be really challenging for you. And so, my role is to create structure through a brand strategy that allows you to feel super comfortable being seen because being seen does not mean you have to tell every nitty gritty detail of your divorce story. Like, we don't need to know all of that. You get to choose and curate what you want to share and how you want to connect with people. And I think that when people realize that, when women realize that, it's like a breath of fresh air. And also, the other layer to this is that traditionally women are the caretakers, like in their lives of everyone, everything, schedules, whether you have children or not. Like you tend to have a caretaking or nurturing role. Hello, patriarchy society, but that's where we're at. And so I think there's another layer to that of you get to a point where you're comfortable not only being seen, but putting time into your own dreams and saying the thing you need to say and doing it anyway. And then that leads to visibility in a way that maybe isn't even anything that you imagined.
it's comfort in your own skin.
Yeah.
Really. And, like, my favorite thing of entrepreneurship, and I've said this 30,000 times, and I'll keep saying it, is entrepreneurship is your best and worst therapy session you're ever gonna go through, and because it's the one that you never get to leave. And but I
You do
think
not graduate. You do not collect $200 and pass go.
correct, correct. But it's also the most beautiful part of it, and it's become my favorite part of entrepreneurship because it is healing parts of me that I did not know needed to be healed, and it is allowing me to find and it's not easy. Hard, but it's allowing me to find that comfort in my own skin to feel comfortable being seen and to feel comfortable being visible. And that bleeds once you get there, that is going to bleed into so many other parts of your life,
Mm,
your business. You'll realize it actually wasn't about business at all.
mhm.
Totally. So speaking of, I literally have tears in my eyes thinking about just like that in general and like feeding that extra part of you. That makes me really happy. So thank you for bringing that up. But speaking of like the joy and bringing that, what is something in your life right now that's lighting you up in life and business?
Oh, yeah. My temptation is to say summer, literally, like you get this being in Seattle.
Hmm.
Um,
Totally.
I'm in Portland for anyone listening, so I'm just 2 hours the other way, and, the sun is, like, a thing that's hard to find here, so I have to just say that.
The
But
sun,
also
period.
yeah, the sun. Um, like, you know that TikTok sound going around of, like, "And for 2 months, she didn't move and conserved her energy," like, me and the sun.
We become flowers, is what my
Literally,
friends
yeah.
up here say. Yeah.
Um,
I always
but
say 'em.
on top of that, I've also, been doing more speaking this year and, engaging more with, like, platforms like that, and that's been fantastic. That was a push for me last year, but, there's something about this year that just feels so much more comfortable for me, which is really exciting, and several of my speaking options have been, like, speaking to other designers, which has been really cool. Just to be in a position now 7 plus years in to share what I've done and what I know and what I've learned, in a way in, like, a non-gatekeeping kind of way has been really fun. So that's been lighting me up recently.
I love that. That's such a different way too when you get to like love on basically baby you
Yeah.
in a past life. Like that's a special kind of like teaching and loving and speaking as opposed to speaking to a corporate environment or something
Mhm.
like that. Cuz I mean there's just so much more emotion in it at least for me. So I get that so much. Okay, and then what we want to not close with because we always have a closing question, but what would you say is something that's really helped you stay grounded in your six-figure business journey? Because you're a badass, but how are you grounding? How do you stay sane throughout this?
Mm. Um, I would say keeping promises to myself.
Oh, say it again for the people in the back. Oh man.
Yeah, I think in the past I might have said therapy. I mean, like love therapy.
Preach.
That I've been in therapy forever. Yoga, like moving my body, like all of those things, but all of those things are rooted in keeping promises to myself. And once I started doing that, um everything changed and started moving in the direction that I wanted it to. And so I think that that's important in all the like literally everything we talked about today ties back to like, are you keeping a promise to yourself and are you keeping a promise to your people?
I love
Promise.
that.
That's the common denominator. I'll have to tie
Mhm.
that into the episode title somehow because it
Yeah.
is and self-trust, keeping a promise to yourself also links to self-trust. If you
Exactly.
have self-trust, you have nothing. Because like, if you
Mhm.
can't trust yourself, who can you trust? And that is a lesson that I have to remind myself constantly because I know all of this so innately, but we're all human and it happens. Sometimes and it's as little as if you tell yourself you're gonna wake up at 6 a.m. the next morning, or if you tell yourself you're gonna go to that gym session or read that book, whatever it might be, and you go, "Oh, no big deal. Today got busy." I hit snooze or I skipped the gym or I didn't read the book, whatever. Your brain holds on to that as I don't believe what she says. And in the moment
Mhm.
it feels like not a big deal, but over time they add up. And then when you do finally say those big things of I'm going to buy a house this year, I'm going to backpack Europe this year, I'm going to quit my job and start a business this year, or I'm going to make $1 million business this year, whatever it is, your brain's going to go, she might not. She doesn't typically. And that is a gut punch when you have that realization with yourself. It's an important one though, because the more you can pivot that bias within your body to believe what she says she does. So when you do say, I'm buying a house this year, I'm traveling to Europe, I'm blah, 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 your brain's going to go, oh, crap, she said it. That means we're going to do it. And now we're actually going to see all of the opportunities around us to help us get there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay. So we have a closing question. And then after you'll have to tell everyone where to find you, all the things, how they can love on you. But the closing question we love to end every episode with is my favorite question to ask people. And it's if you could sit across from the younger version of you before the business, before the grad school, before everything, what would you tell her?
Oh my gosh. This is a good one. I would say something around, uh, don't forget that you have so many possibilities for your life. And I think that ties very deeply to my story.
Mhm.
Um, Having been in an environment where there was one potential path, wife, mother, servant to the Lord, then I think that just hearing that would have been enough to pique my curiosity. So that's what I would say.
I adore that answer.
I do
There's
too.
I think so many people live so many different lives in
Yes.
time, and I know for the longest time, I personally felt ashamed about that because I was like, "I look
Mm,
scattered, I look like I don't know what I want, and I keep changing my
mm.
mind," and I was self-conscious about it, and the reality is no, like, there's so many opportunities of who you can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Possibilities are endless.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. We also know that you are a busy bee, right? You're doing all the things. So tell our listeners what's so exciting with you. How can they love on you? What you're offering, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So you can find my brand and web design agency at bethanyworks.com. So if you're interested in that or need any support in that realm, that is also where I have mentorship for designers. So if you're a designer listening to this and you're interested in a singular strategy sesh or mentorship, it's all in that space. And you can DM me directly on Instagram at Bethany Works Design. I'm very active on the gram, and you will speak to me. um, and then my story, like my personal brand, is building over on TikTok under my full name, Bethany McCamish. You can also find my website, bethanymccamish.com. And then if you're looking to add another podcast to your mix, I have one called Unbreakable Brands. And that would be a really good listen if you want to hear from women who are founders building super strong brands through all different kinds of strategies and approaches. And then also little sound bites from me sharing what has worked in terms of visibility right now. So it would be a similar conversation to this if you've enjoyed it so far.
Hell
Amazing.
yes. Everyone go check it out. Bethany is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. Um, I found you online a handful of years ago now
Hmm.
through like mutual connections, and we followed each other for a hot minute and finally got to meet in person this past June. And it's been lovely. And you are incredible at what you do. And from designer to designer, and
Thank you.
inspiration to watch grow and your work in every piece of it. So thank you for your time today. This
Thank
has been
you.
a
Yeah.
lovely conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I loved this.
Thank you. It was literally such a blessing. I obviously got to meet you in June too. And
Yeah.
Brooke was like, it's Bethany. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh. We've been fangirling for a while, and I just appreciate you so much and your time and your space and your grace with us today. Welcome to the Find Your Fuse community. And we're just so
Thanks.
blessed that you are here.
Yeah. I love your guys' emails and everything. It's been really fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shucks.
Yeah.
All
I,
right.
I actually read them, which doesn't always happen.
Stop it right now. That just
I
made my
know.
whole life. Thank you.
No, I actually read them.
You're speaking Kelly's love
Oh my
language.
God, I might go cry. Honestly, I'm so happy right now.
Oh, good.
See you all next time.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We have new episodes coming out every Thursday, so we will catch you in one of the next ones.
And please take some time, follow us on @FindYourFuse or email us at info@findyourfuse.com for all inquiries and all exciting things that you want to chat with us about. We love building this community and we love you. Take some time and leave a review. Anything above 5 stars, we'd love it. But really, we appreciate you and we appreciate your feedback in any form, because the more feedback we can get, the better we'll get. Okay, love you. Bye.